Was it hard? Was it hard to convince them to do it? I mean, it makes a lot of sense, but how do you get them to sort of say? Because people, one of the things that's interesting in selling something to people is, it's always easier to sell something to someone that fits their existing worldview.
Yes.
When you try and change their worldview, you have a little bit of, there's an evangelical element to it. Like, you should think differently, and here's why you should act differently in our relationship. How do you deal with that?
We actually gave them a guarantee that we will deliver, and we promised them a money back if we didn't, and we've never had to, fortunately, knock on wood, do that. But that's how we still sell. Years into it, we sell by measuring the value that we're generating, and our pricing increases year over year based on the value increase from our product. And we guarantee them a certain return on their brand and a sales lift for their brand, and then we promise them a money back if we fail to deliver.
Got it. Great. Another question that came out is, early on when your business is conceptual and you're trying to figure out like exactly, it's worth a lot. All right, this is an area where there's great need for consumers, there's great need for advertisers, and there's enough dollars being spent that it's not just a service, but it could be a business with real value, like economic value. Yeah. How do you deal with the question of unit economics when you're in a startup mode?
Yeah.
And how did you guys think about that and work around that?
Well, so this was a subject very dear and near to our hearts because this is how we looked at our business. Even today, we look at each deployment we make is X amount of dollars, right? The life of that deployment is 4.5 years.
And deployment for you involves what?
So if you go into a doctor's office or an outpatient area in a hospital and you see a display like the ones here CDW's donated, and you look at that display, you'll see a media player on the back of it, and you'll see content that's wrapped around that practice. That's exactly tailored for the socioeconomics in that office, for the specialty type it is, so on and so forth.
So your incremental cost is the equipment to play in the space.
Equipment, the CapEx there, but then also the field installation. And then the hard part in healthcare is actually acquiring these practices. That is very expensive and difficult. And so we looked at that, and then we looked at how many months, how much time does it take for us to go into the black, right? So we provide this at no cost. So we start out down X dollars. How much time does it get for us to get to break even? And then what's the life of that product? And so that's how we look at unit economics. Now there's a point at which that works. So if you do 2 of them and you project your ad rates, those aren't going to work because people don't want to buy 2, right? So for us, it was 200. We knew that at 200, and we tested this with agencies, we actually went and sold it, and that's how we figured out it would work, and then we built it. And I think we're going to about two-sided markets at some point. Mm-hmm. We'll go into how that happened. But that's how we made unit economics work. We kind of said, okay, what is the initial outlay we need to get to make this work? And then how much does it cost us for each deployment, and how much do we generate from each deployment? Now, your unit may be different. It may be a user. It may be anything. But it's a very good way to think about it because the easier you can validate your model and de-risk the premise of it and get to a point where, okay, each additional, here are my unit economics, each additional $1 million invested gets me X. The whole nature of your business and the way you think about it, your team thinks about it, your investors think about it, rapidly changes.
That's great. It's a great point. People who go to Founder Stories know that we love to talk about two-sided networks because everybody in their business plan wants to have one. They're wonderful dynamics to them, but they're really hard. Most people who have two-sided network-based strategies don't achieve success with it. So talk a little bit about the nature of your two-sided network, and let's just, because I think one of the things that's hard for people to get their head around is the chicken-egg problem. Yeah. Right? And so can we start with the chicken-egg problem and talk a little bit about it in the context of what you all do and how you solve for that?
So for us, the 2 different markets was one was the doctor's practices that was installing our system, and the other was the advertisers. Advertisers want scale. Something too small is not valuable enough. It's not worth their time to invest dollars in as a marketing tactic. And for doctors' practices, we needed money. We're buying TVs, we're buying computer screens, we're getting field installations done, we're acquiring, we're doing marketing. So it's a CapEx-intensive business, so we needed money to install more screens, for which we need advertisers. Advertisers need more screens to actually give us any money. So a lot of it was really kind of to going step by step, adding a few screens and then telling the advertisers, hey, we have 50, we're projected on 200. If you start January 1st with us, it's November 15th, we'll be there. And each time delivering on small goals to keep building those relationships and keep expanding on that. And this speaks to, I guess, entrepreneurs' salesmanship as well. Rishi actually negotiated upfront payments from them. So we were getting upfront payments on our advertising deals to have money in the bank to actually go do the installations and then commit and deliver 200 screens, deliver 500 screens, and 2,000 screens. That's how we kept growing. It really was a step-by-step, and we knew each incremental step that would mean something more to the advertisers, and we knew what we needed to get all these screens up.
So who's harder to get
resources.
in your two-sided network in the early days? Who was harder to acquire?
So surprisingly, I would say the doctor's practices.
Really, I'd say the advertising.
All right,
Well,
good.
that's the
let's
side
get-
of the business we each work on.
There
They're
you go.
both really hard.
All right, so let's start with one and let's hear both.
For doctors' practices, it was a new concept to them. It was free, which actually a lot of people said, well, it's free. Why wouldn't a doctor sign up? Exactly, but it's free, and everyone hesitates when something's free. So it took us a while to convince them to sign up, and that this was really going to be a good delivery.
And for them, it's just value for their patients. Is that the idea?
It's value for their patients. And we did the same. We did no contracts with them. It's a free product. We said, listen, just try this out. If you don't find value, we'll come take it back. And 98.9% of our members keep the system once they've tried it out. And so it really speaks to, again, the quality of the product, the consistency and delivery, and advertisers was equally hard.
But what'd you learn? Let's talk about the doctor side, because, we're talking about this now. We're rolling out a new product and a new strategy, and one of the things, we're testing. We're going through these iterations, and I remember we launched the first piece, and people said, the first strategy, and people said, it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. It was our best shot. It was kind of like, all right, well, what worked about it, and what do you figure out how to do? So what did you learn, like going to those early doctors, what was the barrier you had to solve for, and how did you figure out how to overcome that?
That's a really interesting question. I'd say there was a couple of things. One was egos or power. They wanted to know that they were in control. So we gave them a system saying, you're not signing any contracts. You can take this out of your office anytime. You can remove any segment of content or advertising. We'll take the system down. You're completely in control. We're really showing patients anything you want to. That gave them a lot of comfort. We call it the doctor's choice guarantee. Almost no one exercises it, but knowing that they have it and knowing that really we have our skin in the game, that we're doing this at our risk and they're de-risked made them very comfortable with that. So that was definitely one thing. Two was access. Talking to doctors is very hard. They're very busy, legitimately, as is their support staff at the practice, and getting access in the first place was difficult. So we figured out a few different, and we really went back to traditional marketing. A lot of our doctors were saying, and this is a story that when we're interviewing and I tell the story, and it's like, yeah, you're joking, but it's actually true. A lot of the doctors are saying, fax is information. Like, fax you information? We don't have a fax
Does everybody
machine.
even here know what fax is?
This is one of the interesting things. When Matt and Mike were here from Grubhub, one of the things they talked about was they had to figure out how to work with the technology their market had, and it was a fax machine.
Yeah, they faxed a lot too. Yeah,
They still fax a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
we do too.
So
Restaurants and doctors' offices. Big faxers.
So you get them on board now. How about the acquisition model itself? I mean, you've got to pay a salesperson to sell something that's free in terms of what's there. What does it cost you in terms of, as you figure out your acquisition? Like, how much of your total upfront cost is that salesperson going out? And how did you figure out how to take that down?
So we have an inside phone sales team, which worked well for us. We did try, because everyone in the industry was sending out reps. We said, let's try this out. But what we discovered was our team going out was treated just like another pharma rep. They were waiting in the waiting area for hours. On the phone, we were able to get the gatekeepers engaged, get them chatted, then get to one person more senior, and that's still how we do it. And it takes a few phone calls to get that done.
Does it take much direct marketing to do along with it, or is it really just working the phone?
No, it's a lot of direct marketing. It's a lot of trade shows, and I was actually advising ITA on whether to, have a panel on trade shows, and it's like, who does trade shows anymore? But certain industries do, and I think going back to, again, just listening, where our customers are. We're bringing this high-tech product in healthcare, and that's great, and we're thinking from the technology standpoint, but our users aren't there. So we need to bridge the gap. We need to build that bridge so they speak in their language, solve a problem for them, help them understand. We actually used to call our TV screens digital magazines for a while. Because when we used to say we have these flat screen LED screens that will play custom information, they're like, whoa, slow down. What are you talking about over here? So we said, you know the magazines in your waiting area? They said, yeah. We're like, well, this is a magazine in a TV format. Like, oh, okay, we get it. So it
Nice.
really was a
Analogs
lot of,
always work really well.
yeah. So it really was a lot of understanding the market and speaking their language, bridging the gap from a high-tech product, and really going step by step, going where their comfort zone was. We do fax information. A lot of our signups come through faxes still. We, of course, use fax through our email accounts, and we are high-tech on our end with faxes, but on their end, it's a fax machine.
Fascinating.
It's a lot of direct mail, and direct mail is dead for most industries. We have very high response rates in direct mail. An office setting is one where they do read all their mail because their claims data, their patient information, and so it works. We do, again, target the messaging to them. It's never kind of, here's who we are, it's always, here's how we're helping you. And it's always, here's a pain point you have. Your New Year resolution is to serve your patients better. Help us help you do it. And we've always kept all of our marketing non-invasive, non-screaming. It's always been, here's how we're helping you. Let us help you help.
It's really helpful, I think, for entrepreneurs to hear that there's nothing wrong with the fax machine. Don't get caught up in doing it your way, do it their way, because that's your selling.